Hello. Welcome to Examining Fictional Heroes and the authors behind them. My name is Wayne Browder. Once again, I'm going to deviate for an episode away from Sons of the Hawk, which I've been covering. I'm going to read to you an excerpt from the story A Witch Shall Be Born by Robert E. Howard. It's a Conan story. It can be found in this volume, Conan the Freebooter, which is my favorite collection of short stories about Conan, by the way. Not my favorite story, favorite collection. However, I started making this series because I believe things were still relevant that can be found in these books, particularly those dealing with traditional virtues and traditional manhood. However, there are situations and things of that nature also that are relevant in these books to what happens today. That's why I began Sons of the Hawk, and that is why a few weeks ago I made a short video from the Gods of Mars, where John Carter was put on trial by his enemies. The excerpt that I want to read to you, first I'll give you a little background. In this story, Conan is captain of the Queen's Guard in the city of Conan. That to us would be equivalent to being head of the Secret Service. A sorceress had taken the place of the Queen of Conan during the night. And Conan has to deal with this the next morning. She has let a band of Shemites into the city who were camped outside, and they're basically enemies. They were in their territory on the pretense of passing through. And the woman who took the queen's place had opened the gates to the Shemites. This is from the lips of one of the army of Conan. I was not on the wall when the Shemites entered, he burst out. I was asleep in the barracks with the others not on duty. It was just before dawn when our captain entered, and his face was pale under his helmet. The Shemites are in the city, he said. The queen came to the southern gate and gave orders that they should be admitted. She made the men come down from the walls, where they've been on guard since Constantius entered the kingdom. I don't understand it, and neither does anyone else. But I heard her give the order, and we obeyed as we always do. We are ordered to assemble in the square before the palace. Form ranks outside the barracks and march. Leave your arms and armor here. Ishtar knows what this means, but it's the queen's order. Well, when we came up to the square, the Shemites were drawn up on foot opposite the palace, 10,000 of the blue-bearded devils, fully armed, and people's heads were thrust out of every window and door on the square. The streets leading into the square were thronged by bewildered folk. Taramis was standing on the steps of the palace, alone except for Constantius, who stood stroking his mustache like a great lean cat who had just devoured a sparrow. But 50 Shemites with bows in their hands were ranged below them. That's where the queen's guard should have been. But they were drawn up at the foot of the palace stair, as puzzled as we, though they had come fully armed, in spite of the queen's order. Taramis spoke to us then, and told us that she had reconsidered the proposal made her by Constantius. Why, only yesterday she threw it in his teeth in open court, and that she had decided to make him her royal consort. She did not explain why she had brought the Shemites into the city so treacherously. But she said that, as Constantius had control of a body of professional fighting men, the army of Conan would no longer be needed. And therefore she disbanded it and ordered us to go quietly to our homes. While obedience to our queen is second nature to us, but we were struck dumb and found no word to answer. We broke ranks almost before we knew what we were doing, like men in a daze. But when the palace guard was ordered to disarm likewise and disband, the captain of the guard, Conan, interrupted. Men said he was off duty the night before and drunk, but he was wide awake now. He shouted to the guardsmen to stand as they were until they received an order from him. And such is his dominance of his men that they obeyed in spite of the queen. He strode up the palace steps and glared at Taramis. And then he roared, "This is not the queen. This isn't Taramis. It's some devil in masquerade." As much as I love that story, my second favorite Conan story, by the way, I will end it there. You, if you've watched these, have probably gleaned that I lean to the right, especially if you've seen the John Carter segment that I did. I read this one tonight for the same reason. The point that I want to make tonight is someone in the Secret Service needs to have a very Conan talk with his troops. And if you're a man, you always have to stand for what you believe in and what you know is right, regardless of what it may cost you. Thank you for listening. I always appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your comments, if you make any. I would be very interested in those. I actually had a brief message conversation with somebody who follows the page about deviating once again from the story I intended to cover. And he thought it was a good idea. So this is it. I hope you guys like it. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.